So a pretty decent start to the list, I was thinking would be Love Letter. It's a game that I've actually played completely silent more than a few times. Everyone is pretty required to know all the cards, but if people do, and everybody has those reference cards, I think it works out really well. For anything that requires you, like the guard, to reference another card, you just point to the one that you're accusing someone of having, something like that. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, and for that matter, Lost Legacy, either of those, any of the Love Letter flavors that play almost the exact same, all of those work out really well. A game that I really like that I think playing silent could lend itself to kind of the general attitude of the game and what it's going for is Koi Pond by Daniel Solis, Smart Play Games. It's a really beautiful game, as you can see, and everyone is competing to kind of have the best and most homogeneous scoring of koi ponds between their houses and their ponds, and everyone's got an individual river, and it's really neat. And I think if you chose to play that game silently, it could work out really nicely. Everyone's kind of just relaxed, and it's not a game where there's going to be trash talking or a lot of like uproarious laughter or anything. So I think it could lend itself very, very well to the theme. On the thematic side of things, something that I would love to try now after thinking of it is playing Mysterium completely silent. I know one character is silent, whoever's playing the ghost is silent the whole time, but what if everybody was, and you weren't working together to, help interpret clues and like talking each other out of things? There have been so many times where someone has been absolutely convinced that, okay, this clue means this weapon or this person, and, someone else completely talks them out of it. Like, no, it can't mean that. It's got to mean this other thing. Surely you're looking at the green, and it's the red that's supposed to be there. Or, like, oh, there's bushes. It should be the hedge trimmers. Stuff like that. So I think if everyone was silent, I don't think you'd really lose anything in the game, and I think it would be a fun little way to experience that game, maybe after you've played it a few times already. So the next one is a little bit weird, and it's primarily driven by the fact that what you are provided for the game is more than adequate to play silently, and that's Small World. Every single person has access to that cheat sheet that says, here are all the races, here are all the powers, if you're playing Underground, here's what all the relics do, etc. So it lends itself really well to not really needing to ask a lot of questions, or like you could just glance over and say like, oh, you've got the flying skeletons, and I can look at my sheet and see exactly what that means. Also, if you were silent in Small World, maybe then the game would be a little less aggressive. And I know some people that absolutely love Small World. I'm one of them. I think it's a blast. It's a really good time. It's goofy looking. It's beautiful. But some people kind of hate it because of the fact that the first turns are like, oh yeah, we're all exploring, and then it's immediately stomping on each other's faces. Maybe if everyone was silent, there'd be a little less of that. You couldn't incite aggression. I don't know. Maybe that would make people more aggressive if they didn't have to deal with somebody else complaining about it. So my last recommendation is actually something that sort of fixes a problem with a game by making it silent. That'd be Pandemic. That goes with that, there'd be Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, where you can get an alpha player scenario, somebody who's just constantly telling other people what to do, controlling their turn, stuff like that. If you're making everybody play silently, I think that kind of puts an interesting spin on it. Why are all of these CDC members, or, why are all of these explorers not communicating with one another? Like, what has happened? So I think that kind of puts an interesting spin on it, and it fixes a little bit of it. It makes people more in control of their turns if they're not, like, constantly hearing, like, oh, do this, do this, do this. It'd be totally up to them. I don't know, just a thought. So, what are some games that you guys like to play silently? Are there any that have absolutely not worked for you? I mean, I'm thinking of a couple. Another game by Daniel Solis. Bell of the Ball would be ridiculous silent. All of those names and stuff like that. I'm sure, there's plenty of negotiation games and stuff like that that are immediately out the window. But what are some games that maybe you could play silently, but you really shouldn't?